Well, hey folks, welcome back to another Timber Talk Tuesday. I'm Ricky McLean with WoodWorks. Now, I get asked pretty often by young engineers and architects, as well as by students, how they can get their start in mass timber. Now, each of us that is currently working in mass timber has a unique story, a unique background as to how we got here and how we got our start. And I thought, what better way to explain how others have gotten their start than by sharing some stories. Now, I really want to highlight and emphasize the unique roles that engineers play in mass timber and really lift up young engineers and show the opportunities to them, especially female young engineers. So I'm going to bring into this three-part video series, 3 female engineers, and they're going to share their stories on how they got their start in mass timber, as well as some of the recommendations they have for others looking to get into it. So without further ado, here is Tanya Luthi, Vice President of Structures with Intuitive, based in New York City, Annavitte and Senior Engineer with Thornton Tomasetti, based in Portland, Maine, and Parisa Nassiri, Senior Fire Engineer with Holmes, based in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Well, my recommendation is to read a lot and don't be afraid of asking questions with the mass timber structures, and specifically when it comes to the tall timber structures. There are really good research data, test results, test reports, and code commentary that are available that really helps building that knowledge foundation that you need. But this is a fact that although we've been building timber structures, shorter, smaller ones with timber for years, but tall timber, at least in the States, is pretty new. So there are still things that needs to be worked through, and not everything has been codified to the detail, whether it's the behavior of fire in larger exposed timber commercial configuration, for example, or the unique connection designs that you're working through. So going back to my main point, ask a lot of questions, and no question is enough one, and make sure to read a lot and keep yourself up to date with all of the code changes that are coming up, the new tests that have been scheduled, or any new documents that have been released that is related to mass timber.
My first suggestion would be to look at and find as many resources as you can on mass timber, because it is still a bit of a new material in terms of design information that's available. There's so much coming out of WoodWorks and out of APA to give you a lot of good background knowledge, but it does take some time to read through and look at some design examples and understand how to work with these materials. Because there's just a lot of bits and pieces floating out there of information, and it's really good to just explore and research and learn what you can. I think another suggestion, if you are finding that you're going to be working with mass timber as a lateral component in your building, especially looking at CLT, then check out the NDS SPDWIS 2021, because it's likely what people are going to be, or at least we're finding that is what we're having to go by for a code, and getting a special ordinance to use that code from the town often, just to be able to consider CLT as a lateral element in the building. And it took me several times to just read through it again and again to really get a grasp on what they are requiring you to look at for use of CLT as your floor diaphragm, how certain panels connect to each other, and how they connect to a vertical lateral component, and overall what is like the main failure mode of that whole system if it is a mass timber lateral system. So I think that, finding as much information as you can, reading it, trying to really understand it, and then asking questions, especially if you're working with a manufacturer, asking them what they've seen for typical details or what they like to specify as typical details. That we did in my first mass timber project with working with SmartLam, is we said, what do you see for a typical detail of a CLT wall panel to foundation? And they gave us a few great examples that they've worked with before, and we were able to go by that. So asking questions, always good. Another thing is understanding fire design. I think my first exposure to designing specifically for fire was when I started working with mass timber, because a lot of these elements end up being exposed in the building, and you are going to have to account for your fire protection in part of your wood volume. And so understanding how that design process works and how it affects your sizing of different materials in your building is really important. And I think last thing that I was thinking of is to try to think a little bit like an architect and predict what they might be looking for in the building visually, just because a lot of the mass timber projects that we're seeing right now are leaving these structural elements exposed. So you're seeing the underside of your CLT panel, you're seeing a glulam beam from 3 sides, you're seeing how it connects into a column, and understanding how all of those components might affect a space visually is really important, and in anticipating how the architect might ask you to change your design, as well as looking at different species, because not all panel grades or all framing grades are from the same species. And so often if you're going to a higher strength material and you need that for your grid spacing, or how far you're trying to span with your CLT or whatnot, you might be looking at a different species than what the architect might be anticipating. So I think just thinking visually throughout the process is really important.
Read. You know, I remember hearing someone give advice to aspiring writers, and they said, every good writer is a good reader. And I think that advice applies to so much more than just writing. You know, I'm also, I'm a big tennis fan, and I love Roger Federer, and he's often described as one of the great students of the game. And, you know, even though my formal schooling is long over, I really aspire to be a student of mass timber. And that's everything from, you know, learning about specific buildings and their designs, the evolution of timber buildings, what's in the building codes and why, you know, new research, old research. The other day I dug up a paper on bolted connections in wood. It was from 1932, still very relevant today. And there's just so much you can learn by reading that will make you a better designer. You know, you can't rely only on your own project experience. In our world, big projects take years to go from start to finish. So even over the course of a whole career, you know, in the grand scheme of the industry, you'll work on only a small handful of projects. It's not enough. So luckily we live at a time when so much information is available online, you'll really never run out of material.